I don't know about you, when I'm looking for a plumber, I like to read my reviews. HomeAdvisor.com gave me some reviews on our sponsor, Art of Plumbing. Called them. They arrived on time. Immediately found the plumbing issue and fixed it right the first time. I called them last year and it was great. I called them again this year because I had a problem again. They came out, they fixed the problem. They even gave me solutions to help stop the problem in the future at 541-9405. Thank you so much for joining us on Other People's Shoes. Today's episode is called The Ripple Effect, and you're going to hear about why in this episode. At least I hope so. I sit down with a gentleman today by the name of Caleb LaPlante, and Caleb is fantastic. He is doing so many amazing things in the Grants Pass community, from the Kite and Balloon Festival to real estate to some aviation stuff. He is doing it all. And my question for you, why aren't you getting involved in your community? Hear how he's getting involved in his and maybe some ideas on how you can get involved in yours. Hope you're ready, because here we go.
Hey, come take a walk with me, not like you used to do. Do something different and put yourself in other people's shoes. Open up your mind and open up your eyes and change your direction, change your perspective.
Welcome into Other People's Shoes. Of course, I am your host, Neil Matthews. Today, I sit across from me my guest, who is the president of Southern Oregon Air Academy. Oh, yeah. And he's also the founder of Grants Pass Balloon and Kite Festival. Oh, did I also mention he's also a real estate agent? That's right. If you're looking for a home or know someone that is, remember Generations Real Estate. Welcome in my guest, Caleb LaPlante. Caleb, how are you?
Hi, Neil. Good.
So I'm so excited to have you here today. This is just, I think, really cool to take place, right? Long time, maybe in the making.
2010, 11, maybe we met, and it's been almost that entire time since talking or anything.
Right. And so we just kind of on a whim, on a really weird tweet, kind of reconnect. And so that's fun. So we're gonna lead off with my favorite question, and then I want to share something with you. So we got to get this out of the way first. So shoe size. What size shoe do you wear?
I had a chance to catch up on a couple of episodes.
Thank you.
I knew this was coming.
Yeah. So you're prepped. This is the only question you're ready for, right?
The rest, it's
just gonna be me and you.
TBD.
Okay.
I wonder if any of your other 30-something guests have answered this way. So depending on what I'm shopping for, and this is why online shopping with returns is so important, I am a 9 or a 9.5, and I don't know why.
Okay.
But I'm a variable shoe size. And I like boots. I'm riffing a bit here, but my wife will joke, and others know me, that for maybe 6 years, that's like my thing. I wear boots. And
is there like a brand of boots, like cowboy boots, or you're like, what kind of boots are we talking? Snow boots?
Now you're really getting into it. So there is a brand I like.
There is a brand,
and I hope this will be funny. It's not so. It was devastating to me at first, but I find it funny now. I wore Chinook boots for the longest time. I found a pair I liked. I went through several over a number of years. And then Chinook just discontinued them.
Chinook, like, are you listening right now?
I even emailed them.
Help my friend out.
Please tell me this is temporary, Chinook. Okay. And the nice gentleman said, "Oh, I'm sorry, but thank you for all of your shoe purchase love over the years." And now I'm wearing something not Chinook because I didn't like any of their other stuff. So I don't hate them, but now I'm on to something else.
Wow. That's a devastating story.
Perseverance deal through the shoe.
We're gonna get into that. So this is how funny this is. So Facebook is good for some things. Sometimes it's good for bad things. So I'm gonna read this to you. You don't even know this is coming. Okay. It says, "Hi, bro." This is you writing to me, by the way. Mm-hmm. "Hi, bro. Talked to the newest radio. We'll just leave it at radio DJ the other day. Listed all the folks you knew over there. She gave me the bad news about you being let go. I'm really sorry to hear that. But hey, like to buy you lunch tomorrow. Pep talk, prayer talk, general bro company. Are you interested? Remember, we serve a God who never fails us. I believe that with all my heart. Talk to you soon."
You dug that up. I'm glad you
I
dug
actually,
that up.
I
Oh,
didn't.
it's text?
It was in a message.
Wow.
And when I messaged you the other day on Facebook about, our meetup today, that
There's
was
the next
still
thread
in
up there.
there. And I was just like, holy smokes. By the way, date on this. I want to date this. So this is August 16th,
Weird.
2011.
Yeah, so I had it pegged right. I didn't actually go back and
Yeah,
research, but I thought it was 10 or 11.
So there we go. Why on earth would you send a message like that to a guy you don't even know really good or really well? I guess my English teacher's now freaking out. Really well.
Well, I was about to comment about how many times I used bro in 2011. Didn't know that was a thing. I guess I worked for Dutch Bros then. And
Give me a barista coffee, bro.
so you're fine with switching out a good for a well there. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
We didn't know each other.
We didn't.
Well.
No.
Good.
No.
But we met through work.
Yes, we did.
I was doing the sales manager position at Gary West Meats in Jacksonville, and you came a-calling, and there was a special event. It might have been the dog run event, something
like that.
we needed to promote.
Right.
So we were utilizing your professional abilities.
Right.
And I think
some would question that, but yeah, thank you for that. That's courtesy.
But then I think we were just working together through a limited capacity. I remember standing downstairs in the shipping room, visiting for a while. I don't remember the details, but it was a good 30, 45 minutes, and it was a wonderful conversation.
It was, yep.
And that's what's great about business is it brings people together.
Yep.
And I probably sent that message because I was doing follow-up or who knows why, and got the word that you were gone. And maybe this is a trait that this is such an interesting thing to timestamp something I wasn't expecting to come, because it makes you think, who am I really versus who I am just today because of circumstance?
Right.
I guess I've probably always been a person who likes to just do little bits of caringness. It feels good to me, but I know it means a lot to people. I love it when people do it for me. So I probably thought to myself, you just asked me, why did I do this? Probably thought, I've been there. I've been let go.
Yeah.
And I would like a little bit of a how are you, just making sure you got somebody to hear you or hang with you at this time.
And I know I just thought that was really funny, and it really spoke to me the other day when I was getting ready for our chat today, and I was just like, are you kidding me? Wow, 2011. What was I doing in 2011?
Thanks for reading it and surprising me. It was a fun surprise.
You're welcome. Yeah, I didn't want to prep you for that. I wanted your raw reaction, and I feel like I got it. So that kind of leads into my next question is just really you and your character, because I think the more I've discovered about you through the years and now kind of catching up again and seeing your social media presence and just things that you're doing and things that you're involved in. First off, wow. We'll get into some of that a little bit later, but why do you think it's so important? How and the why maybe is it so important for people to pour into their community? Because I know you're big on that. So why do you think that is? That people should pour into their community? Just
getting right into it. You're getting to the core of what makes me tick, so I'm glad we're starting there.
I mean, we don't wade in the water here. We just kind of, cannonball in, as I say so often on this show. So
the community bit for me is bigger than just volunteering, or it's good for my business, or it makes me feel good. Where do I want to start on this one? You probably want to lead this discussion later around the real estate topic. I'll try to keep some of this history brief just so we can hit it the way that you'd like to later. But I did get licensed in 2012 as a broker, and not too long thereafter, I went to Salem as part of the Realtor Rally Day. I saw a big sign at the Capitol steps. Hundreds of realtors come from all over the state. I think we're one of the biggest lobbying groups. It was just, hey, we got some things we want. It wasn't like we were pitchforks. We were just talking to our legislators. And the sign at the front said, realtors are 15% of the GDP. Well, the real estate sales world. So that's contractors, that's mortgage. And I came home from that, still pretty much a young guy, 34-ish, 33, maybe 35. And I thought, I'm trying to remember where the legislative cycle was. Yeah, it's odd years, so 35. And I thought, what does that mean? It means that we're literally responsible for a good chunk, not a majority, but of how our communities look and feel. That's just the realtor angle. You don't have to be a realtor to bite off hard on community. But it got me really thinking. I'd been involved in some things and wanting to try to dabble prior to that. We'll talk about Rotary. I'm sure you've seen my Rotary stuff here, my gear and my swag. And if you follow me on social, you'll hear that. But I was just finding Rotary about that same time. So that boosted and amplified what I was doing in the community. But even before that, especially afterward, I believe it's something. Your last guest actually was talking about this disconnect from relationship, and we're not choosing to be with people as much. I'm not down on that really. I'm not a down on social. I'm not a. Some people say, oh, we're unplugging and we're from real life and we're going into this digital. I think digital is amazing for a lot of reasons, but I do feel that we can risk through this transition process as society and technology is accelerating so fast, we can lose touch with our immediate world. And this is kind of a game of physics or chemistry or some science. The world seems so big. You can take the universe or you can take the globe, but the nation, but it's all made up of particles. And this little town I live in and this little valley that we live in, these are particles. But it makes up the entire specimen, that's not the right word. It makes up the entire biology of whatever you're studying and looking at. And
the community, I mean, it really does, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our little town and our world requires us to engage to make it what we want it to be. Otherwise, it will probably just be meh, or somebody else will, hopefully with good intent and ideals. Not that I'm, like Mr. Superhero guy. I just mean you hope that if you leave it alone, somebody else is going to pick it up. It'll be what you want it to be. Well, you got to make the world what you want it to be.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. And I think that, to me, is what's so captivating about you in a lot of respects for me, especially looking at the outside in the last couple of days of really kind of digging into your involvement and everything. And obviously we will get more into that, but I kind of just ask this, the more I see of your involvement in things, I think, how the heck does he find the time to do everything? I get this
all the time.
So what's the secret to that? Because my time management skills are awful. Like, anyone who knows me personally is probably raising their hand right now saying, Caleb, if you could somehow make Neil a better time manager, please show him and tell him how.
Well, I'll try to be brief. I warned you before we started, I get wordy. I think on this question, just to keep it kind of top level, the one principle is I just had to start somewhere, and my time management skills grew because I committed to it, and then you tweak as you go. And when I say I started somewhere, I started before I was even back here in the Rogue Valley, which was 2004. Like, I'm talking about, I was on the East Coast living over there after I left school and thought, I just need to have a date planner. And it was all by hand, and I use it sometimes and sometimes not. That morphed into Google Calendar. And then as I got into business, I had to be a little more intentful about how that was structured. Got into business, and then I had like nonprofit stuff that was layered. And I won't get into the details, but I just keep tweaking and tweaking. Google Calendar, I use all day appointments. I don't use the calendar part. I color code. It's pretty nerdy, but I own my nerdiness in a lot of different aspects. And it isn't the only secret weapon, if you will. Some of it is intent, and some of it is just bold faith to say, I believe in what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I have to do this. I can't not, because we're probably going to get into this. I'm in a pretty much on a journey to find out what my purpose is here on the earth. And if I'm activated in that way when I'm out doing stuff, and I believe I've hit a little vein of whatever that's related to that, what do you do when you've decided I'm chasing my purpose and I see a little bit there? Am I just gonna be like, well, not today, sorry? And you figure it out. So there's that intent. You have to really want something. And this isn't like crazy, weird mysticism stuff. I just mean it's a combination of having organization and having commitment.
Well, and again, I think that leads into the next thing I wanted to kind of dig into a little bit too, is obviously you're a very driven person. And I don't think everyone wakes up saying, okay, today's the day I'm gonna be driven, right? Nobody ever wakes up and is like, okay, all right, today it's gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna run a marathon. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. But really, you're very driven, right? So how does that kind of piggyback on this idea of you being so driven, right?
A couple things there. So it sounds great when you ask me the question and I answer. It sounds very idealistic. What it really looks like in real world is sometimes I back myself into situations that I have to find a way out of. And sometimes I do have too many balls that I'm carrying. People that have worked with me closely, especially, many of them have learned to adapt. It isn't all about adapting to me, but I mean, when we were working together, you got to learn to figure that out with people. And several, that has not gone so well, partially because I don't wing it. I've always got a plan, but it can be It can be sometimes last minute and also unknown as you're heading into the fray. What we're doing, it's a bit of, I know we're going to figure it out, and I do, but that's stressful. What was your question? It was about drive?
Driven, yeah. I mean, you're obviously a very driven person. So how would someone maybe get to be driven?
I mentioned the word purpose. Let's start there. I didn't think a lot about purpose until 2014. A business colleague of mine who I still very much trust and rely, Dan Doyle, a mortgage lender who is very good at what he does, but also his orientation in life is inspiring. And to me, he talked about purpose. He led my office at the time through some visioning and some discussions around what is purpose, why do you consider it, and do we believe that we have a purpose while we're here individually? I believed from that, yes, probably do. And so then it started for me with, I had to have a why, and I knew that was my why. I couldn't even write it out. He had a purpose statement, and I couldn't even figure it out in 6 or 9 months what my starting place was. But I felt it was there. So that was my why, and I have since written that purpose down and have formulated it as I've gone. Oh, that's probably it. I was like, well, but I don't want to just assume I don't have one because I can't think of it right now. How do I find it? I have to get busy in doing. I've got this saying I like to use: faith plus action is what actually gets you where you need to be. Action alone is just potentially spinning wheels. Faith is all wishy-washy, fun. I want it, but I'm not doing anything. The two together are really pretty powerful. And I had to get moving. And in that process, I discovered things about myself. What was I interested in? What was I good at? What was I not good at? What did I want out of life? So action was really important. But definitely that faith. I think we're probably going to talk about a Christian faith perspective at some point. But faith in general, because both are relevant to me, but faith in general is just something you can't see, but you believe it's there and you want to attain it. And you're going to get moving toward that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's well put, right? Is how do we move past this idea of, I have this idea, I have this concept, I have this, thought, but then putting that thought into action and then that follow through. I mean, again, I'm just looking at all the stuff that you've accomplished since our last, real interaction together. And I'm just like, man, it just seems like everything just keeps, driving you forward. And it's just, to me, it's very commendable from that standpoint. So
I hope others, I have the flexibility of time as a real estate broker, and that's not afforded to everyone. But I do believe, I've thought a lot about this. Can people with hours of the day that they're already pre-committed to, can they find it in their other hours to start doing some of this? When you get away from my own world and I look into entrepreneurial communications like Gary Vaynerchuk and other people who are messaging about this, they talk about the cracks and days and how to find time to, it's the side gig or the side hustle economy. And there is capability there, but it's more about mindset. What do you spend your time in your mind on when you're not working on life's responsibilities? I think that's where the winning game is, because you can start small and grow that into. I keep losing the thread of what your original questions were, but I'm sure some of this is adding up to making sense.
I think it is, and I think what you're trying to say, if I can maybe help you out here a little bit, is the standpoint of, what do you have, right? Each of us have 24. Yeah. 24 hours is what I'm referring to by the 24. Each of us have that 24 hours. So how are we going to spend it? And you're saying is try to work within those margins that you have to be effective, from what I'm hearing.
That's right. And I did real estate on the side when I started, so I had to find time for that outside of my normal. And then as I transitioned into that and I had more time, I still only have 24, so I got to find the time in the cracks. Time in the cracks is pretty big. And then when you find what you want to do, it can become more than the cracks. You can now start giving time to it because you figure out, how's it going to either help me make money or help lead to something that's going to make my life stable. And you can just grow the pieces that you find along the way that you started out in the cracks on.
Yeah, and I think in that, there's joy in that, right?
Yes, very much.
There's great joy in that. And so that leads into my next thing that I kind of wanted to lead into is, where do you find your greatest joy right now? Because, I mean, you have so much going on, right? You have your family. I mean, you got kids now. Last time we talked, there were no kids.
We were married, but like a year or two at most.
Exactly. So now there's kids. Of course, the wife's always been there, and now you have this job. You have this. 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 I mean, we could just keep adding the thises.
Is that many? Wow, I guess I lost track.
There's a lot of thises. So where do you find the greatest joy in life right now?
It's not identifiable by a thing of the things, the thises that you just mentioned.
Right.
although there are themes, aviation, the inspirational side of that, and aerospace, the potential literally in space, the commercialization of space is something that thrills me. And so I'm putting time in toward that is a thing. There's the other side of the coin, which is vulnerability. This world is hurting, whether you think of that from a Christian-based sin and brokenness, or you think of it in terms of just, it's a rough world and there's a lot of bad. People don't have good intent, and that spills into lives in terms of damage and trauma. I wouldn't say that brings me joy. It brings me to the point of needing to do something, but not even like as an activist. I go, I want to work on something that needs the attention at that level, and then I want to come from the other side and an inspirational opportunity side. Somewhere in the middle of that is a sense of joy, because I'm like, there's balance there. You know, it's not all driven for the upside. It's not all mired in the downside. You have both. And only in the last year or two, actually, have I identified largely where those two things lie. Anti-human trafficking and helping foster and homeless youth has come together over the last 6 or 8 years on the one side, and the aviation piece has really come together in the last 3 or 4 years. And I like to talk about how those two contrasts are where in the middle you go, I'm affecting change, or I'm affecting outcomes in both sides, which are both important.
Yeah. Talking about that, the Air Academy, Southern Oregon Air Academy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fascinated by that. First off, I was trying to figure out how I could get, signed up to do some of that stuff.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then I realized that you have to be in high school and middle school to be a part of that. And unfortunately, I probably couldn't pass, maturity wise as a high schooler or middle schooler. Some would argue against that, but my thought is that, what made you want to get involved in that?
My wife, as a kid, her grandfather and father, if anyone's listening, is from the Josephine County area, might know them from running the Grants Pass Airport when she was a kid. She and her sister would fly with Dad and just run around the airport. That wouldn't be the reason for me, but it's part of our story now. My part with aviation started when I got licensed, wanted to grow my business out of the area. I wanted to bring business from Silicon Valley buyers who wanted to relocate here. And I needed to get down there. I'd drive to go meet these folks. I was using other agents, asking them for their referrals, got that going. And then it was like, it's 8 hours down, 8 hours back. Oh, I should fly. I can't afford that licensing yet, but I want to do that. It's something I want to aim for. I went to the airport, just figured out where can I plug in to start learning about aviation. Learned they have a airport advisory board. Went for a year every month during the meetings and just sat in the public and met people. And then the Chamber of Commerce president asked me I knew her through other projects, asked me to fill the Chamber of Commerce seat when that vacancy happened. So I've been sitting on that seat for a handful of years. The next summer, I learned, we got this new thing. Some older volunteers were doing summer camps. So of course I go get involved, because what I do, I go figure out, I shouldn't say I got involved. I went to go see what it was all about. And I was like, we got to capture this. So I got my videographer and my camera person from real estate photo, and we caught it, and then we showed it to people, and they were like, this is like I thought, this is really pretty cool. And I said, we should incorporate, we should do more with this. Granted, I wasn't the only one. There were several other professionals around our age, you and I's age, who were already involved, and they wanted to get involved in a nonprofit incorporation effort. And they helped us get grants. There's a facility that became available for very, very low or no cost, essentially, extraordinary facility. And we just decided to do it. And now we've got an after-school program. We're doing a high school plane build in our next wave of development, where kids will build the plane from scratch. They'll learn to fly it, they'll sell it, and it'll fund the program. We've got a lot of other big plans. Those are just programs. We want to actually put kids who have been with us a couple years into a pathway to a career. We just had the local airport sign an agreement with Horizon Airlines. So the Horizon is investing in students to get their license now to fly. And we want to help develop engineers and mechanics. So that's our vision. The idea is aviation is an opportunity. It's woefully short in skilled professionals right now, which just to me is an opportunity. It means get people in gear, get them in those careers, and they'll have a wonderful experience in something that hopefully they love over their life and will be rewarding as well. That's what drives us.
I'm just shaking my head in just disbelief how this has just exploded. Right?
It's only a couple of years, so yeah, I guess you could say that's exploding.
It really has exploded, yeah, and I think that's awesome. So go back with me in the time machine. There's a little reference for you. I know you know that one, DeLorean. Let's jump into it right now. So what do you wish that you had known back when you first started? Way back when you first started, kind of with before Gary West. What do you wish you could go back and tell that old self of yours about where you are now?
Like in my 20s, I started at Gary West at 27.
Yeah. Gosh, man, we were young.
Yeah. I mean, I think we met toward the tail end of my time there too. Yeah. I was there a little over 3 years. Yeah. Learned a lot. Prior to that, before I moved home in 2004 as a 24-year-old, I was living in cities. I left college at 20, so I had 4 years of my walkabout, if you will. So let's start in that zone. I could talk to my younger self in my couple of years of college and prior, but I think that is the part that as I look at myself now, I go, man, I think that's the guy I'd want to talk to, my 20s, early mid-20s.
Yeah. What would you tell that young Caleb?
I remember talking to my father at 25 and being rather emotional, feeling like I missed it, Pop. I'm 25, I'm done. And he didn't
like
even...
you're tapping out?
Yeah, well, 25? No. Oh, no. Like you're supposed to be who you are by 25.
Right, but that's what I mean. You're feeling like you haven't arrived in some respects.
Yeah, and I guess also in another respect, I was a bit of feeling defeated and giving up. Like, whatever happens in my life, I missed it. And it's so dramatic. I look back now and I'm like, God, 39. I'm like, I'm just getting started. But I wouldn't just encourage me at that moment. That frames the ideology or the thinking of the time.
I gotcha.
There's so much pressure in that age range for me, and I think others. I would say try more, because that's where I'm finding the sweet spot in my 30s and have as I round into my 40s. The more you try is where you're going to find what you want to do. It requires a lot of sacrifice. It's not like you're trying stuff and it's just all fun. It means you got to get off your duff and get up and go meet people and go try stuff and figure out what you like and what you're good at and what people think you could do for them of value. And then you start figuring some stuff out. To be really specific, I don't know why I'm killing myself that in my 20s I didn't go get my real estate license or become a mortgage broker or anything that you could do in your part-time, because I'd work a lunch shift at a restaurant or an evening shift. I mean, how much time do you have around that? I look at how I segment my time now, and I can get a ton done in 2 hours. That's how I do it, actually, in blocks and small chunks here and there. As I mix up this activity with that, I go from this wildly different thing to the next. I could have done that in my 20s. So if someone's listening, I certainly would say, whatever you're doing for work, don't just think I'm biding time till I hit my thing someday down the road. Your thing is now, man. You just need to get out and go explore a bit and find out who you are, and that'll lead you where you want to be.
There was a great speaker I heard, and maybe you know this guy, maybe you don't. Louis Giglio talks about taking the stairs.
I haven't heard the reference, but I know him.
But he has this crazy analogy, like each step represents something. And nobody gets to this golden elevator and gets to the top and it's like, okay, I've arrived. Unfortunately, we have to take the slow climb up the stairs, right? Mm-hmm. And so each stair represents something. So it reminded me of that when you said that. So we'll kind of link that in our notes today. But going back to this, I'm sure there were references and resources and just maybe things that propelled you forward in a lot of respects. What were those, kind of maybe in a nutshell, of really what kind of helped get you on the path that you are on now?
When I started settling down, my wife and I hadn't had our first kid yet. So this is 2011. I wanted to get out in the community. I started going to Chamber of Commerce, trying some different groups, and found that I liked meeting people. Didn't amount to much right away, other than like it wasn't an instant where I was like, I got to do that. But just out and about. And then the anti-human trafficking opportunity came up. It wasn't, I don't know that many would consider it an opportunity. In my mind, I did. I thought, well, nobody's talking about that. That interests me. What is that? And why don't I understand it? How come I haven't heard this from somewhere else? And that has been a continuum from then to now. But the first couple of years, some people were doing something with it, but it was a bit of I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just out there trying to teach classes at Club Northwest. I'd go speak to groups. I'd occasionally go up to Salem for rally days. That was though like that where I say just get interested in something and go do it. I mean, I remember feeling, I'd say to Chrissy, especially when the kids came along, I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Why am I out doing this stuff? Because I got other stuff to be doing.
What was her response to that?
Well, she's like, when we got into full-time real estate, she's like, yeah, what are you doing? You need to be out doing real estate.
So she's coming alongside you in the real estate process as well?
Not so much. I mean,
okay.
She's got her own small business, but she's been able to be home, which is something she wanted with her kids. Absolutely. And she does well with her business. You can't see it on the airwaves here, but behind us is her business sign in our office. We share an office. Friendly Crow. She makes kids' clothes from vintage fabric.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the reason she said that is because I was the full-time employee worker at that point. And so prior to that, it was encouraging, but she didn't get it either. I didn't even know why I was doing it. I know now why I was doing it, because I was doing what I just shared with you a minute ago. I needed to just get busy with something that wasn't a responsibility in life, but was of an interest, and I stuck with it. Even when I don't remember how many conversations I had. I said, why am I going to teach this class tonight? I mean, there's maybe 5 people there, but I just felt like I can't give up. Well, that led to a lot of things. It certainly led me to 2014 when I was a speaker. I was asked to be a speaker at this Rotary Club thing on anti-human trafficking, of course. And the club was somewhat interested. I wouldn't say that they were like disinterested, but they were like, wow, I didn't know that either. But it wasn't this aha moment. And then I got invited back. So this is in answer to your question, this is a second really important moment. The first one was just deciding to do something, get busy with it, stick with it. The second was, and this is not a sales pitch for Rotary. I think it doesn't have to be Rotary, but I talk now about principles that Rotary brings. It's reputation, resources, and relationships. Rotary is an established organization, international but local. They do service work, but they're also very entrepreneurial driven. It's about equipping you to learn what you need to do things. And I had those 3 things now at my disposal. Rotary has a reputation, they have some financial resources, and the relationships. There's a lot of people in Rotary that can help open up the doors for the work you want to do. Also help open the door for more resources that aren't within Rotary grants.
Which, let's face it, I mean, our world is driven and surrounded by resources. You have to have resources to move forward. So I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're saying.
No, I underestimated though what it took to do work, and that's why I think I wouldn't call it treading water, but there certainly wasn't a ton of forward movement until I realized, I need this stuff. It's not just about my effort. I've got to align with things that will bring effect, bring change, bring outcomes. Sure. And so Rotary, I mean, I don't know how much we want to get into that. I'll pause on that for now. You can come back to it if you want, but Rotary has been a massive difference maker. So aligning with something that amplifies what you want to do once you found.
I think whether it's Rotary or whether it's another organization, it doesn't matter. As long as that organization is equipping you, right, to do what you're passionate about, to help put you in a position where you can be on potentially a platform or a stage or whatever to help your message go out. I mean, whether it be Rotary or something else, I mean, that really is the key, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
That's what it was for me.
Right. And I think that should be true for anybody. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I think so. If I'm trying to extrapolate out of my experience what I think are principles and not just this was Caleb's thing, this is where somebody else could try to apply something, that's a principle. Right.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. So here's where it's going to really maybe get a little unique for you perspective wise is obviously you have a unique skill set. You're pretty articulate, right? Mm-hmm. You're driven. We've talked about that. Mm-hmm. You're successful, right? Not everyone has those skills. Not everyone has them. So what skills do you think have again made you a unique way to be so successful?
Well, you've mentioned several of them. I didn't even know this about myself, but when I started doing public speaking in small groups or even one-on-one, people would say, "Oh, you can communicate well." Well, you're right. Not everybody has that. And I don't mean to say that if you aren't comfortable in front of a group, that's a negative for you. You've got other skills. All of us have ups and downs, sides, or things, strengths and not strengths. That was one for me, and it still is. And I've learned to explore it more. I think I just was winging it before, but now I've learned to refine how I communicate intentionally. And then another was exploring the space in my mind. I've got a creative, imaginative side. And when I started listening to music and putting things in my ears, and now it's podcast and music.
There's a really good podcast out right now, by the way.
What is it? I want to hear. What podcast is that? The brain, I'm not a neurologist, I'm not a psychologist, but I think there's got 2 types of brain activity. Yep. So the creative side for me, it wasn't just, that's nice, I want to be creative. it allowed me to all of a sudden now I vision stuff in my mind because I give time to creative thought, but not just for the sake of expression, for the sake of outcome. I really want to do something, affect an outcome, and grow and learn in the process. So that I gotta picture what it is I'm doing or where I'm going. So taking time for in your brain space is important, and learning to flex that muscle of vision. Vision isn't so much fancy as it is literally a tangible thing you can do. To visioning is picturing in your mind something that is not yet there, and then going and creating the thing you pictured.
Well, and again, I think it bears repeating maybe in a lot of respects that if we're going to be successful in life, we have to exercise, right? We have to exercise those muscles. We have to step out of that comfort zone. I mean, I don't think you're going to wake up tomorrow and go run a marathon. I mean, maybe you are. I mean, I don't know. But unless you're prepared, unless you're putting in the training and the effort, really, I mean, you're not going to be as effective, right?
Your Twitter feed last Friday had that quote about fear. And I'm going to botch it, but it's going to be close. Fear, you have to exercise the muscle of working against fear. Yeah. When you address your fears regularly, you'll learn how to bring about skills that will counteract it so you can get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
And I want to speak to fear because you haven't brought it up, but since you said the muscle thing, and that reminded me about the quote on your Twitter feed, I do this stuff scared. This is, I sound on this mic like, oh, this guy, Neil,
he knows what he's doing.
Of course.
He's got it all together. Beautiful family, beautiful wife, great career.
I thank you for all of that.
But you're afraid.
Yes, very.
Why are you afraid? And that leads into my next thing, by the way. So we could segue right into that.
Okay.
What is the most common reason why people fail in your mind or give up?
Well, fear is there, but let me frame it differently to start. We'll come back to fear. It's self-confidence. I mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk earlier. I also don't want to be a fanboy. Like I didn't want to be super fanboy about Rotary. I don't want to get on a Gary Vaynerchuk kick, but he's been in my ears and in front of my eyes for 3 or 4 years. He's the only guy I have turned on Instagram for automatic alerts. He talks about how building self-confidence isn't just for the fun of it because it makes you feel good. If you believe in yourself, but it isn't like from day 1 to 2, you go, I believe in myself. Little incremental shifts. But how do you learn that self-confidence will be the thing you pull on the most to get through your fear. But how do you develop self-confidence? And in my estimation, in my opinion, you have to stretch yourself beyond where your comfort zone is to do a thing that once you've done it, that you really were kind of doubting in your mind. Your mind has these protection mechanisms, right? So part of the doubt and part of the fear is just to protect you. It doesn't want you going out to do something that could kill you or be negative. So you push past that, you learn to negate the potential for damage or negative, and you go, I'm gonna grow, and you're a little scared, but what happens when you get to the other side, you go, I'm a little more confident in myself. And then owning that and focusing on that and letting that be your driver, that certainly has allowed me, because I just feel like I know I'm capable now of this. I've done this. I think Henry Ford said one time, if it all got taken away, if for some reason I missed a big blind spot and it burned down to the ground and my business failed, I know how to do it. I could do it again, whether it's cars or something else, because I learned along the way. That's what it's about for me. It's about learning, not what the outcome is. It's about what I've learned to get there. And it's incremental self-confidence building. And then that helps me pierce through the next veil of fear and more fear that's always waiting on the other side. There will be more fear at whatever I'm sure Elon Musk, I'm a big space fan. I'm sure as he thinks about the next thing he's going to pioneer, there's fear. What if I fail? What if I can't do that thing?
And do you think fear has a way of crippling us in a lot of respects, in your opinion, in your experience?
Yes, because it tells me that I can't, and I'm less than, or I wasn't made for this, or what will happen if I do fail, and what will happen? Will we die? Will we learn? What will people think less of us? I do fail. I have failed even in relationships, which is the hardest one, when there's somebody you care for and you've missed it or you've let them down. Those are really hard. The ones that get you in those tear ducts where you're like, God, I just wish I could do that different.
Is there one that comes to mind?
I'm not comfortable talking about it yet because I haven't reconciled with this person, but yeah, when you get your hands dirty and you're doing work and you roll up your sleeves together with people and things can get sideways, it can hurt feelers and little tendrils of thought and emotion, and I got 1 or 2 right now, and I don't mean to say that I behaved terrible, and I don't know that they were terrible, but I listened to your last episode, and you were very open, and so was this other very fond person to you about how you guys got sideways, and it happens, right? And those are the hard ones. So failure. What was your question? Fear?
Yeah. I mean, how does, let me go back to my notes here. Let's see. What is the most common reason why people fail or give up? So we could even make that personal. Like, what's the most common reason why you fail or give up?
I don't give up anymore, and that's and that actually probably sounds so conceited, and that's actually partially what I think drives some people to the relationship side is so hard, because what I sacrifice for that isn't necessarily that I put relationships behind things, but I refuse to give up when a lot of people go, this isn't that important, Caleb, and I go, I kind of think it is. I think that we need to commit to good work and bigger work and just see it out, and so I don't know what causes folks to fail. Maybe it's because they're reasonable and rational people, and they realize that okay, the stakes aren't that high, and I got other priorities. So some of this is a sanity check. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's all wonderful rainbows, and some of it's like, I don't know why you do what you do, because it doesn't look so sane to me on the outside sometimes. You're saying it looks very interesting and very rewarding and maybe even successful, and I think that. But other people who are in close go, ooh, that takes a lot. I wonder if that's for me.
Well, and I think that's the key, right? Is so many times in life we get discouraged because of fear. And in that discouragement, what happens is we allow that fear, that discouragement to maybe speak louder in our life than maybe somebody else. Has that ever occurred in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, I have nights even where in the last 6 months where I have felt it's so loud, I have to just remind myself to get through the night and wake up the next morning and tap back in with the flow that I'm in. Because the space in our mind I mentioned is imaginative and creative and envisioning, but it's also the place where it's an echo chamber. If you get the wrong vibration frequency bouncing around in your brain, boy, it just takes a little time for that thing to stop echoing around and get out of your head. So that negativity, it's there, and it can be powerful, especially when it's personal. And we make all things personal. They should be personal, but that's also the other edge of the sword, is that the personal can really weigh on us hard. And if it's critical, for self-critical, that's we got to find ways to work through that. Sometimes it's just get through it. There's no answer. Just get through it to the other side the other day, whatever it may be. Yeah.
And again, I think this just building again on kind of our discussion, and that's this idea, right? You have 2 kids now.
Yes.
How old are they?
Gemma is 5 and Jude is 7, just a week or so ago.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Little guys. We're not going to have 3. I don't know if you were planning to ask that.
No, I wasn't.
Done.
You're done.
Yeah.
Tapping out.
Yep.
Tapping out for sure on that one. So what will you teach your kids about perseverance? And what do you think they're seeing about your perseverance? So 2-part question. What are you going to teach them? And then what do you think they're seeing?
Our kids have some learning disabilities. They're mild autism spectrum.
Okay.
They have some speech delays and challenges. They're getting quite along though lately, and we're really proud of them. And it's not all about standard measures of development. We try to remember that too. So where I'm at in my mind as having a father of 5 and 7-year-old, it's different than what I thought. That's probably every parent's experience. But I was even telling my wife earlier today when we were driving, doing something fun. It's a common theme for us, I think. How do I work with Jude when we don't have as much verbal communication as I would have hoped or think, and even when there's some behavioral things that are challenged for him because of his autism. That is a way of thinking. I don't have an answer, but I love my son and I want to find a relationship with him. She's very encouraging about that. Don't worry, you're going to find it. He loves you. You love him. You'll be good. I mean, we have a relationship, but it's pursuing it to that other level. And that's a bit of perseverance. I think, I don't know where he'll go developmentally, but I imagine, let's say as a 17-year-old or a 27-year-old, as he grows and he becomes more of who he is, and we learn how to communicate, he may even inquire about his own disabilities and how we relate to him. And I think I would love to share that with him, that mom encouraged dad to look at who Jude is and believe in that, and then to just find it as you go. I thought about that subject of perseverance before we started today because I didn't know where you wanted to go with that.
I never know where I want to go, by the way.
Pick a theme, roll with it. I was thinking that.
This is probably the most I've prepped in a while, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm letting people behind the scenes. So Garrett, be aware, he's not listening. Garrett's not here with us today, but Garrett's my executive producer, and he's like, I don't understand how you rarely have questions, but you carry on a conversation with someone for an hour.
This is the journalist within you, though.
Yeah.
You wanted that from a young age, so you developed those abilities.
Yeah. Back to you. Yeah.
If you're asking what I think our kids are witnessing, certainly my wife has her own story, which I won't share, but she's persevered through quite a bit, including homelessness as a high schooler, and then as an adult, some severe trauma. For my end, I mean, I think even today, while she's not experiencing any of those things are things she's working through still. And so our kids can witness her, find her journey and find the answers she needs. For me, as I grow and I describe everything I have already in this podcast, this process of discovering yourself, finding yourself, getting busy in chasing things and learning about as you go, action and faith together. Anytime you get off that train, I don't want to say that you have failed to persevere, because it's all a choice as to whether you stay with it. But certainly there are many times that you want to give up, in small moments and large moments. And when you want an outcome, you can't give up. And so I think if my kids later are going,
think of an example of an outcome that you haven't wanted to give up on?
Oh, the balloon festival. We haven't talked about that. I mean, from year one, boy, before we even launched day one.
Quite literally launching balloons.
Oh yeah, they're there too. Aviation references. I don't even realize I'm doing them anymore.
That was pun intended.
Well done.
Yeah.
The festival, without getting too detaily, was at jeopardy of not going off the first year, and we decided we was 50-50, but why give up? And it went the other way. It ended up rolling toward happening. And the very first night of the festival, it was all on me. I don't know why anybody didn't check me on this, but this was my idea to open up at 8:30, and we had a traffic jam. The Daily Courier the newspaper posted that 8:30 at night for a 9 o'clock show. Just failed at this one. There was 1,000 cars backed up from the festival site on this 200-acre farm into downtown Grants Pass. And I remember feeling in that moment, we still had 2 days to go. And I was like, well, first of all, I want to give up right now, but I'm not, because I'm not that guy. But after this weekend, I'm done. This is the worst.
And how many years have you been doing it now?
Well, this is the next year will be the 4th. So I didn't give up, and others around me certainly didn't give up. That they deserve a lot of the credit for that.
Right.
People who come along and decide to believe in it with you, that's a big thing. When you find somebody who believes in something like you do. And
I guess that's the key, right, in life, and to really be able to persevere effectively. Would you agree with this, that you have to find that team around you that really support your passion and support what you're doing, and then rally them, right, as the catalyst to say, hey, here we go, love it or not, we're going forward, right?
I think people initially get excited because they're like, oh, somebody's doing something. I want to do something cool. That's cool. Let's go. But if it doesn't work for them, like if it isn't what they really want to do, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing if they back out later. It just means that that's a bit of a risk for the person who's at the point of the spear, because you feel like you have a team, but later you go, oh, wait, that they realized I was excited at first, but that's not what I don't want to necessarily run with this forever. And now you don't have a team or a piece of the team. So there's kind of this ongoing. It isn't just like a Avengers Assemble or Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and they become.
Love the references.
You go and then your job's done. I mean, it's a bit of this ebb and flow of teamwork. But yes, it's one I struggle with. I will do a thing because I know I have a belief I can do it and will do it, but shouldn't be doing it. There should be other people that want to participate in this also and take responsibility and take some of the reward on the other end. I do struggle with team building, with team maintenance, and it's a weak point. So I know that's something that I'm looking to celebrate when the time comes that I've started to figure that out more. That's how I frame things instead of its present weakness as I go. I know that I'm going to work on it, so it's going to be better, and that's going to be an awesome day when it gets better. Yeah. But I will say teamwork, especially on a big level, if you're going to start building organizations, like we just went through a board member change at Southern Oregon Air Academy, and it took us 8 months, partially because I'm like, how do you build an effective team? We knew we had some retiring members, older members, and initially I was like, oh, I got a plan for that. And then it was like, well, that might not work. But we've got them on board. They're amazing people. But you've got to learn like team. It just, you see it on TV. I just made these references. It seems so easy to assemble a team, right? It's not.
Yeah.
And that.
Well, even the Avengers had problems. I mean,
Civil War.
Yeah.
I'm glad we went there. This is
great.
Great.
Even our country had problems forming this great team, this great nation, right? Because I know you're a big constitutional guy. We talked about that a little bit pre-show, but I mean, that's the whole idea of this, right? Is who's going to rally around you? Who's going to help persevere you through these dark times when they come? And I think that's why, to me, my wife is so important to me, and I think your wife is so important to you, right? We have that safety net, that person that can cheer us on from the sidelines, and maybe even jump in if we need them to,
and vice versa.
Right?
Partially, when you mentioned your wife, I'm wondering more about her now because as you referenced her as a baseline for you and really support. I bet you there's a lot there that you could share.
Oh my gosh!
And
people will keep lobbying to have her on, but
we're
still in contract.
I'll sign that petition.
We're still in contract negotiations. That's what I always say. We're in contract negotiations. Her agent hasn't gotten with our team yet, but no. I mean, I think it's important to have that great support system, whether you have a wife or you have a husband, but maybe have somebody around your life that really can push you forward. And I think that's going to help you obviously persevere in a lot of things.
If I can,
Please,
stop there,
absolutely.
because how do you find that if you're not married yet, or even if you are married and your spouse maybe not be supportive, or maybe they are, but they're just that. They're not your team in the sense of I'm going to go do this thing that I like.
Right.
This is where I will be a little unashamed or unabashed about Rotary, but there's other ways to do this. But I'm starting a new Rotary Club. It's launching on September 30th for younger professionals. It's for all ages, but there will be, without getting too nerdy about Rotary, there's a second subset of Rotary called Rotaract for 18 to 30-year-olds. We don't have that Rotary organization level here in our community.
That demographic almost?
That's it, yeah. Okay. So our club, the new club of Grants Pass Downtown, #GPD Rotary. I've got stuff out, videos about that, so that's why I referenced the hashtag. We have 4 clubs in Josephine County already, 15 in the Rogue Valley. So this Rotary is very present. This will be an evening club for the purpose of, within a year or two, starting this Rotaract Club, which is exclusively for 18 to 30-year-olds. And the new club will support the 18 to 30-year-old club hand in hand. It's something that I've looked and watched for a while to see why isn't that working or hasn't taken root here. I mentioned all of that to say that the purpose of this club is for people to do exactly what I've been talking about. And this last piece, when you're talking about finding people to support you, to pick you up when you fail, but to encourage you to get out there to fail or to grow or whatever, that space is so important. It's not just the people, it's the space that the people exist in. It's one thing we're not going to talk a ton about Rotary here, but it's one thing if you want to reach out to me and learn more about why it's been so impactful to me, you can watch the videos on the hashtag, but I've had a place to go and people there. And now I want to take that and put it toward this young focus on 18 to 30-year-olds and go, because they're the ones like we were just talking about, like they don't know. And I remember thinking in my 20s, I sure wish somebody would have given me a place to just start testing and playing around with, but it's a safe place in the sense that if it's like, you're not out there on your own, you've got a group with people. So this isn't just about being 18 to 30, it's for all ages, but I think if you're like, I don't know what, I need a group, I need somebody, a support, a space to exist with relationships the whole point of the reason why we're gathered is to get out there and go do stuff in our community and to learn about ourselves and grow and provide and chase opportunity for ourselves and others. I'm unabashed. What's the word? I'm shamefully promoting my thing here.
No,
but at the same
okay,
time, it's not necessarily a business. It's actually, this has been so good for me. I want to provide it for others.
Well, and again, right? That's the whole idea. Is this community, this idea of helping others grow, mentoring others? Because let's face it. I mean, even back when we knew each other, there weren't. At least for me, I didn't have a lot of business mentors that I could lean on. Right. I didn't have a lot of people that when my job was bad or my boss was mean to me or whatever. I didn't have that support system I could go to professionally and say, listen, how do I push through this? Is it just me? Is it just, my own, personality at running amok here? Yeah. And maybe there could have been an older gentleman or, somebody nice to come along and be like, Neil, listen, no, you're okay here. Or, no, maybe you need to switch lanes. Maybe you need to get over here and do this because, hey, here's your skill set. This is what you're wired to do, Yeah. And I think that's important. And
I never had it either.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't think enough young people entering our workforce now, as bad as it is for me to say it, because we're so old, don't have that, right? Because we don't have time for that. We just don't have time for that.
We don't think we have time.
Well, right.
Are you referring to our age group or younger?
I'm just referring to our age.
Oh,
group.
that is a significant issue.
Like,
You
we
got
don't have time for that, right?
responsibilities, yeah.
Because we have marriages, we have kids, we have this, we have this, we have this, we have this. We have all the thises, right?
Yes.
Like we alluded to that you have a few of. So let's get into one of your other thises, and that is this. Why should people use Generations Real Estate?
Oh, thanks for that. It's a nice
that was
business
you.
side angle there.
Little segue there.
Well, I have been working with John L. Scott for most of my real estate career.
Okay.
It's different if you're listening to this and you're in the Rogue Valley. The Medford and Ashland John L. Scotts are owned by one group, where in Grants Pass, this John L. Scott is separate, but very much coordinated, just separate, owned. And not only was it a great place for me financially to grow my business, it was an incredible place professionally to be around these agents who have been in 20, 30, 40 years. I said to my principal broker at one point, how did I get in this office again? And he always just encouraged me, don't worry, you're good here, don't worry. And just being around people, this is great. I hadn't thought about how this ties in with what we were going to be talking about today. But they didn't even do anything intentional to invest in me, but just being around them all the time, I learned a lot, and I believed more about myself because I saw their belief in themselves after their many years of growing their businesses. But then the time came, particularly the last couple of years, as I knew what I wanted to do more with my own real estate practice and property management and beyond. I knew the day, maybe even a year ago, I started talking to my broker about, like, I can't do property management here, right? And he's like, no. And it's like, well, maybe that'll be something I could do at some point. Just not necessarily dropping hints, but kind of exploring it with him about what I can and cannot do. And that led to Generations Real Estate in March of 2019. I incorporated and left John L. Scott. I don't have other agents yet. But for me, if you value having somebody that is with their time, not just logging volunteer hours, but really trying to build community, and that's very entrepreneurial when I say that. It's these things of like starting nonprofits and figuring out what the problems are, and working from a very low level on up, and not just from a surface topical level. That's me. And real estate affords, because of not only financial but time, it affords a broker the ability to do more with the time, I believe, than most. And so the last 3 or 4 years, I haven't had to ask for a single piece of real estate business. That was not the case when I got in. I work with some amazing people who believe in me, not just as my capabilities as a professional, which I do feel I'm good at what I do, but they value the type of person that I choose to be in the times of space of day that is not real estate oriented. And that's not for everybody. Just last night I was having a meeting with a new client who was referred to me, and I make sure to be clear about that you always come first. I never ask you to take a back seat to this other, but you're going to see me out doing a lot of stuff, and sometimes you might wonder, just like you did, Neil, how does that guy do that stuff? Is he really giving me what I need? I give you what you need, I promise. But there's more to me than just that. Not that other realtors aren't deep and don't have plenty of important value they bring to their community, but that's something that's one of the reasons I went on my own. I want to do more with my expression of my self through my business, and really needed a brand. I can even later when my website launches, you'll read more about what the word generations even means to me. It has several different angles, but I needed even my brand to represent who I was as a person. Thanks for asking.
No, absolutely. And so I want to be clear on this too. Caleb is not in any way financially supporting the show.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not financially in any way, giving him this avenue. So I want to be crystal clear on that. We are really good friends, just really connecting again for the first time in a very long time. But I feel passionate about what he's doing, and I wanted to give him an opportunity to share what he's doing on that. So if you're wondering about like what's the angle here, there's no angle. It's strictly that. So I want to be clear on that too. So
can I do part
please,
2
yeah,
of time?
Absolutely. No,
the other time. Reason to consider my business is this is going to go back toward community service. I'm really taking a hard crack at figuring out this housing crisis. If you live in the Rogue Valley, if you live anywhere, what's happened after the big crash of 2008, it's reverberating now in ways that all communities identify with having housing issues. And accessory dwelling units are a way that I'm doing that. I'm not going to get into a nerdy geek out on that, but I don't always or rarely even make money off of that. But as a housing advocate, as a housing professional, I'm working very diligently to figure out how to equip individual property owners that live in their own home to build additional dwelling units on their own property. So we can, I mean, even one tenant that's out there having a hard time finding a place now has a place to go. And we do that in, 10 more units and then 100 more units. And so I very much want to use my real estate professional abilities and voice that people respect toward helping a housing crisis. So, we're here to talk about community. How do you do that? I mean, for me, I think you take what you have and you apply it in a way that is beneficial to more than just yourself. So if you like that first thing I said about my business, but you also have a concern over the housing crisis, that's another reason to support or consider using my business, because I'm really going hard at trying to help with that.
Yeah, and absolutely, and I've seen that too. So, and I think that's awesome. I mean, I don't know all the particulars of it, but I just know your heart behind that, and that's all I need to know, really. In my
Hashtag ADUs in Grants Pass. I got other videos and other content you can learn all about it. Hashtag ADUS in Grants Pass.
Yeah, we'll definitely link that in the show notes for sure. So we're gonna kind of close with this quote, and then we'll play a game. So that sounds fun, right?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so why is this so important to you, do you think? If we're going to be part of the solution, we have to engage in the problem.
And you're asking me what I think of that?
Yeah. Why do you think that should be so important to not only us, but to you?
I'm going to say it back.
Okay.
What about the solution is it?
I'll go one more time. So if we are going to be part of the solution, we have to engage in the problems.
And you're asking what I think of that.
Yeah.
Well, you got to start with understanding, I imagine. This isn't necessarily me speaking from my own experience where I have a lot of examples to give you, but it does make sense to me that engaging with the problem isn't just, I think I know what it is today, I'm going to go do that. It's, I probably don't know what I need to know about the problem. Better spend some time, even after I have enough under my belt of knowing what it is. I better always stay in that frame of mind of, I need to be mindful and open about what it is that this problem is at all times, and not presume that you got it and now I got the answers and go. So engaging with the problem means understanding it. I would also say that it means making sure that you have opportunities to empathize, so that it isn't just, there's a problem, I'm over here, I want to, throw some love or throw some care packages over there. I mean, those are all figurative examples, whatever it is. I don't know that it means, like some great civil and social leaders have in time gone to the thing or changed their own lifestyles to go literally experience what a problem is. But it does mean making sure you can empathize. And then why do I want to, I haven't read the book, but I've never forgotten, there's a title of a book called Toxic Charity, I think, or Toxic something or other, that is about, it's toxic charity. And it's this idea that we just want to feel good about ourselves, so we go do something that we perceive as good. So if you're talking about participating in a solution by engaging with the problem, I think you need to know what it is that, do you really want to solve that problem, or is it just about your need to, I'm checking myself here. I think about this all the time, but you can't stop checking yourself. You better make sure your intent or your awareness is correct or true around the purpose for being there. I bet you as you focus, those last two really do resonate with me. The first one I mentioned, it's more of an understanding, but it's not so much my own personal. I can say though, through all three, that if you're thinking about those things in regard to any problem, then that will put you in a place to be a part of a solution, and not just fabricate a solution or imagine that this is the solution and you never get there. I think the solution isn't what we ever think it's going to be or how we get there, and that means you got to get into it and get not dirty, but you got to get close.
Yeah, and I think you got to deal with a little bit of the mess too, right? In order to be part of that solution, you really got to get in. I think you do have to get a little dirty sometimes.
There's that empathy, right? How do you know how somebody else is feeling if you aren't?
How are you going to walk in their shoes if you're not really walking in them? Oh, full circle.
That was
amazing.
Segue. It's like it all just coalesced. The energy in the room said, there's your closure.
Absolutely. There it is. So Caleb, how can people reach you? I know you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook. You're not Jesus, but you're kind of all over the place.
Omnisocial.
Yeah.
I am on those platforms.
So how do people reach you? Not only if they want to obviously hear more about the Air Academy, but the Balloon Festival, what you're doing with EDUs. Did I say that right?
ADUs.
ADUs.
Yeah.
I was close.
You're
There's
very
a
close.
vowel in there. I was still trying to buy it apparently. But how can people reach you? What is there like a central location to find you?
Please on Twitter you can go. I mean I accept friend requests on Facebook from people I actually know. So if you don't know me, let's start on Twitter and let's start talking and follow me there and we'll get to know each other. And then that can be Facebook. I put a lot of personal content out on those vehicles, kind of on Instagram. I'm trying to still figure out. I've been very active with that for years, but I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with it. You'll see content there. It just may not amount to much. From there you'll see. Like I keep referencing these hashtags. I leave breadcrumbs as I go, and I'm starting to, where people then can go, okay,
Hansel and Gretel.
That's it, a little fairy tale-ish.
Absolutely.
Where then you'll go, oh, he's talking about this thing. There's a website for that. So Southern Oregon Air Academy is soairacademy.com.
Okay.
The Balloon Fest is gpballoonfest.com. The accessory dwelling units is just my realtor. Caleb.realtor is my website. And my email is caleb@generations.realestate. That's, if any of this that you're interested in, not just real estate, contact me there, converse. I'm happy to visit with people who say, I've got an idea. I don't have resources to help financially, but I'm happy to spend a little bit of time just kicking around 30 minutes or something with okay, here's my thoughts on that. If you value my thoughts, I'm happy to do it. That would mean a lot to me to even be asked to give a little time for somebody like that. So for whatever reason out there, I am reachable. Thanks for putting that out there, because if somebody wants to say hello to me, I'll answer.
Well, and like I said, I'm going to probably step out of bounds here a little bit, but when I first started kind of prepping for the show today, and I saw something, I can't remember what it was, but I thought, I could envision Caleb being the mayor of Grants Pass.
I get asked stuff like that. Here's my answer. I've never said this publicly. I say it privately, but I don't mind saying it. I don't want to work on all the problems. I want to work on the things that I care about most and that I feel I'm good at and that I'm inspired by. And the inspiration doesn't always mean the positive side. Inspiration can mean that you're working on some dirty stuff too. But that just means that's why all the more people need to get activated and engaged and find their lane, because it isn't about, we need elected leaders, don't get me wrong, but it's about making sure that they're out when they get elected. Really, they shouldn't be the ones saving us and doing all the right answers. They should be figuring out what's working because other people are doing their thing, and make sure that those people are getting what they need to do their thing. I actually really like our current mayor and our last former mayor, who's now a commissioner. So it's an honorable, very honorable position. And thank you for mentioning it. I think actually governor of Oregon would be really fun someday, but I want to affect more of my own work in Oregon. So I've got a reputation. I don't want to just be a face on a poster, and that sounds great. I actually don't like the two-party system either. So we got to wait for some change there. So I don't have to abide by all their rules to get elected, but I would love to serve a larger group of people at that level. But that's not a goal of mine. It may end that way. That's probably the only
a little bit funny, but at the same time, I'm like, I think he's got the skill set for that. But
I'd have to drop all these other balls and then.
But you would exactly. So we're gonna play a game. This is called Senseless. I'm gonna slide the cup to you, and you get to roll the dice that's in there, and see what you get.
Right here on the table.
That's fine. Yeah, right there on the table. We're in Caleb's office, by the way. So if you hear a little echoey, that is because he's still moving in a lot of respects.
Yes, and I lost the carpets that I ordered online. They got taken from my front porch. So
from a porch pirate, right?
Yeah,
you were talking about that.
And it never happened to me, so it's a little echoey. The tile in here is not dampened
we apologize. So hopefully we're gonna work that out. But if you do notice a little echoey, hopefully it hasn't been too bad. But so this is a great question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like that. You probably know what's coming. But number 6, and he rolled it. So here it is. This is my favorite question we ask, and that's this: you get dinner with one person. They're buying, so it doesn't matter. Cost is not an issue. They're buying. Dead or alive, who are you having lunch with or dinner? A meal.
Could go so many ways.
I know you could.
I have thought about this.
And they don't have to be
ways.
famous, by the way.
I'm going to give you a couple.
I've had a lot of people ask.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they have to be famous. I'm like, they can be anybody you want.
Yeah. Well, like on that token, I never got to know my mom's mom. She died before I was born. So like that would be incredible to meet your close relative.
Right.
I think about certain business people. This is going to sound silly.
The Zig Ziglars of the world.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I saw Zig one time. I had the opportunity when I was 26. I like him, but for me, that's Gary Vaynerchuk. So I would add him to my list of potentials. If you don't know him, you got to go look him up.
I'm going to go look him up after this.
He swears a lot, but I'm fine with it. So if you're not, then he has a podcast that's the curse-free Gary V version.
Okay.
Historically, for a lot of the work that I've spent time on myself, people that I would like to ask their why and there's a lot of recorded history for it, but I want a personal sit down, would be Martin Luther King. And I just listened to 1619 podcast about how when slaves came to this country and the brutality for so long, and what our economy and our society built off of that was really culminated in the civil rights movement. And it wasn't just for Black America, it was for all of, you mentioned my interest in the Constitution. Mm-hmm. What our founding ideals have been materialized in a way. It was referred to in the podcast as perfecting the ideals of our country that got off to one hell of a bad start in that regard. Yeah. And I go, you were there. You were this culmination of this arc of 350 years. And
so it'd be Martin Luther King?
Yep. And he's on my list. And then this is going to sound cliche, but I had an artist friend in my, about the time we met, 2011, who drew me this, I'm talking about extraordinarily good sketch of Abraham Lincoln. It's in my office. And I'll post a photo of it because it's that good. He's amazing. He was a nobody, but I said, you got to do more work. Frame this thing. I want to buy this thing. Yeah. And
keep running in that lane. That's your lane.
Do your thing. Yeah. And so I own that, and I think about that. He actually was a fairly flawed individual, and he was written into history as this hero type. But I think even he has his motivation. Like I mentioned, slavery. Like he wanted to ship the slaves back to Africa was his first take before the Emancipation Proclamation. So I mean, I think he was even pretty bought into this colonialized, industrialized slave system to a degree. So he's not perfect, but I would be like, you were at this important time too. So why were you there? And it's these moments of history that I don't think people wake up and go, I'm going to be part of that moment of history in my life. But I probably have to pick Martin Luther King. And that's just because people I know that are alive today were alive then. And so I'm in that arc right now. And I'd like to learn from that person. So tragic. He was shot.
Well, what would you ask him? I mean, I'm sure you'd ask him a ton of stuff, but maybe one centralized question. What would you ask him?
I'd ask him what his plans were in the long run for his life. I don't remember what age he was. I think he was 39, my age, 38, 39. I don't think he made it to 40. But I read something that in the last couple of years after the major civil rights victories, he was starting to widen his scope, and he took a lot of criticism for it. It wasn't just racial justice. Where was he going? Like, what is a life? He had so much outcome.
So according to Wikipedia, he's 39.
39, yeah.
He was 39.
Wow. So yeah, that's my age. He already had enough to chronicle himself in the pages of history to say, I was there at the time and did the thing I was called to do for the change of humanity and where we were at. But he wasn't done. I probably would be talking to him about, what were you thinking in your headspace, your creative visioning space? What was the rest of your arc going to be as you knew it at that time? And that fascinates me as I even look at my own time. I got some stuff under my belt, but why are we all here, right? Like, it's not about achievement. It's about fulfillment and purpose. I bet you he had a lot left. And I think I could have really enjoyed listening to him share what he thought his life would be, because I think about my own life and what I want it to be, and that would have been a good conversation.
Yeah, I would want to be a fly on the wall for that one for sure, because I don't know, he fascinates me. He's always fascinated me. He really has. Just the fact that he stood, toe to toe and just didn't back down and was a challenger in a lot of respects, and in a good way, of challenging the system. Peaceful.
He wasn't meek. But I don't think even meek is a negative necessarily a negative connotation. He was forceful, but he was peaceful.
Right.
And I don't mean peaceful again as in like hippie, which is nothing wrong with hippie. I just mean he decided, I am not going to power my way through this in the traditional way, because the powerful have always taken things by force. That's nothing new. And maybe that is part of what inspired you. And when you say that he has affected you too, maybe there's something there.
I think he has. I was fascinated by just his life in general, and I remember checking out books on him in elementary school and reading about him, and he's one of those. There's a list, obviously, like you. There's a list of people I would love to sit with. I wish he was still alive. I would try to book him for the show. I would try to book him.
And he'd probably say, yeah, let's do it.
Well, maybe. I don't know. He probably has an agent or something you have to get through. So, Caleb, first off, I'm so excited that we got to reconnect again.
Likewise.
And I was real reluctant to join Twitter.
Were Recently you joined?
I did because of the show.
But here we are because of.
But and that's what I was going to say is we are here really because of a Twitter. And it wasn't anything profound like you tweeted out this amazing thing. I mean, you probably did, but because you do tweet out amazing stuff. But my point is that you just never know when someone's going to cross your path again. You just don't. And so in my mind, you made that big of an impression on me that I felt like I needed to reconnect to find out what is going on in your world and what and how you're being a difference maker here in GP and how you're really persevering through stuff. And so that's why I'm really excited to have you on, and I'm glad we got to make this work. So
I am too, and I look forward to catching your show from time to time. Appreciate what you're doing. This whole idea of there's another perspective. Let's spend some time in that world.
Yeah.
We're not doing that enough. But that's going to help us grow individually, but also learn why that person is needed just as much as I am. And
Absolutely.
so I think there's going to be some good stuff ahead as you start
hope
season
so.
3.
I mean, I hope so. Yeah, we're really excited. We're excited to see what happens, and we're just excited to see where this is going to go because we don't know.
Keep the Chucks, the Converses on the front of your image because I think that just instantly has my attention. I think, oh, this has got to be cool because there's Chucks.
I hope so. I mean, that was kind of the idea behind it.
Don't go with boots or some other thing. I like boots, but your thing is keep those Chucks on the cover.
I have a lot of shoes. I have a lot of shoes.
Like 50 something. I heard in the first episode, wasn't it? Or somewhere you confessed the amount of shoes.
I did. It's probably grown too since then.
Now people know. I bet they're laying shoes at your doorstep. Here, I love you. Have this pair of shoes.
I hope so. So with that, we'll end with that. Guys, I just want to say thank you so much to my guest, Caleb. Obviously, he's doing a lot of stuff in Grants Pass, and go check it out. Go check out what he's being a part of, and see how you can maybe fit into that. Who knows? I mean, maybe you can come walk in his shoes and be a part of his life. So this, of course, is Other People's Shoes. We encourage you to keep listening, and stay tuned next week as we sit down with another guest as we get into their shoes. Thank you again. Of course, I am your host, Neil Matthews, and remember, so often as we say, remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Thank you so much for joining us on Other People's Shoes. Of course, I'm your host, Neil Matthews. Thank you for joining us on this episode today. I hope you got something out of it. I know I got something out of it, and the major thing I got out of it was this: the ripple effect. That's why I called this episode The Ripple Effect, and that's because of this simple truth that came out of this episode. You never know the impact of a message that you're going to get. You just don't. And Caleb's simple message to me so many years ago, 10 as we discovered in the episode, had a lasting impact on my life. And I just wonder, do you have somebody in your life that maybe you need to reach back out to, that you can reach out to and encourage this week? Think about that. Ponder that. Share that maybe with somebody. Share it with us even. We'd love to hear that, of course. Here's my daughter, Adia, to tell you about our November promotion. Adia?
Thanks, Dad. Come be a part of the Other People's Shoes November giveaway, presented by Southern Oregon Runners Club, a family or friend 4-pack. The race entry and shirts for the Turkey Trot on Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, November 28th. To enter, comment on the picture of my dad and host Neil Matthews in a turkey suit. That can be done at facebook.com under Other People's Shoes. For the second entry, follow us on Instagram and comment the picture of Neil in a turkey suit photo with the hashtag TurkeyTrot19. For a third entry into this giveaway, follow us on Twitter and be sure to comment on the picture of Neil in the turkey suit with hashtag TurkeyTrot19. Join us next Wednesday for Special Kids Part 1. Remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Join us next Wednesday. Till then, have a great week.